up, guys? Well, we're back in the shop, and we've got something new to bring you today. We have a VEPR 12. So, got it brand new in the box, unfired, and essentially, you know, it's an AK platform. I guess we'll go over it front to back. Folding stock. There's three ways you can get these right now, guys, for the ones that are left in stock, because they are under the same band that all the other VEPRs are. But it seems that right now on the shelves what they have are, if you're lucky, I saw a few on Gunbroker that had plain fixed polymer stocks. Those I think they referred to, there was a number after them, I think 07. Then there's a stock that looks just like this, looks like a folder, but it's fully welded, and not even welded, it's a fixed stock, okay, but it looks like the folder. Then you have what they call the folder, and there's two versions of these too, I found out on the market right now. The original ones, the older ones, had just a tiny little tack weld down here at the corner. Let's see if you can see this. Right there. And first thing I did when I got it was cut it. Just carefully took a Dremel and just nipped away at it. Try and get right between the plate for the folder and the receiver, and if you just nick away at it enough, they'll just pop, maybe even just a little tap, and boom, they're gone. The newer ones have a full weld down the whole side here, and you can open those up, but they're just a bit messier. You know, they might not be as clean when you're done cutting them and whatnot. So I was lucky enough to find this one, and it worked out fine. We cut that little weld and that was it. So it's just like any of the VEPR rifles. You've got your folding positions, and then over here for a lefty perhaps, and definitely all the way down to fold it. How you fold it is with this little tab right here, button, slide it forward, and it folds very nicely. Locks in, solid as a rock. Then to fold it back, inside the plate here, or trunnion, is this little knurled button. You push that to the left and pops open, locks, solid as could be. One thing with it, when I got it, this stock was wobbling up and down. I may have some footage of it, but I mean some pretty good movement. And, you know, other than that, I love VEPRs. I've got my VEPR rifles. I absolutely love them. The quality, the smoothness, there's nothing better in the AK world right now than a VEPR for quality. And these, you know, the fit and finish is really nice too. So, anyhow, we went over the stock. Mallet grip on this, which has the finger cutouts. It's actually a very comfortable grip, and it being as this gun's as heavy as it is, it gives you some nice leverage to move the gun. Comes with a 5-round mag. There's a couple major players in the mag market for these. One obviously is Mallet, and people have nothing but great things to say about them. They're a polymer mag. They do have steel feed lips and locking tab. It's actually a little U-shaped plate that locks over the back of it. And everybody has great things to say about them. Next on the list is CSS, all steel, Parkerized. The profile on the follower is identical to the factory mags, and they're just beautiful. They do require a little bit of fitting. They come with instructions. I followed the fitting, and they go in and out really nice. I left them a little tight. Just figured shooting, it might be a little they might loosen up a little bit from shooting, so I left them a little loose, but they go in and out real nice. And then there's also SGM Tactical, and that's a polymer mag, but everything I read on the internet was nobody really had much good to say about them. Constant jams, this and that. So for what I plan to do, I really wanted to go with these mags. I think they're going to work out just great. Can't beat steel, right? So we'll see how these things run. Anyhow, let's get a move on here. Safety. You have an ambidextrous safety. It's kind of neat. It was a little tight, but I've adjusted it, just bent it out a little bit. And you can work it with your right hand, put your finger under it to take it off, put your finger over it to put it on. Works real neat. On this side, you've got for your thumb too, so, or finger if you're shooting left-handed. But works out real nice. Quick, all of that. The trigger group in this, I suspect this is a US made trigger group to comply with 922R. When I looked inside of it, the casting is just crap. There's air pockets must have been in it. There's missing chunks. It's just a terrible casting. So we're gonna do a little magic to it and get by with it for now. But if you watch my videos, we'll be replacing it with an ALG. So we'll see what we can do with it and go from there. Another neat thing, solid top cover, but they do rivet on a polymer pick rail up here. It's also hinged at the front here, so it is very solid. There's no movement to it. A little different than other things out there is there's a little button right here you have to push to release the spring carrier. So you push down on the button, open it up, and it hinges up. And like I said, it's tight. This isn't no floppy cover, so true to mullet fashion, they did a nice job on this thing. Everything else internally pretty much the same as any other VEPR. However, it does have, let me put the mag in and we'll show you. So it has last round bolt hold open, which is a great feature. I love Yugo mags, love my Yugos, so I'm used to shooting with it. It has a release. There's a little tab right here, and you just push up on it, and boom, it's in battery. Last round it'll lock open. There's also a little button right underneath in front of the trigger guard here that you can push to hold it open if it was closed and you want to leave it open, you know, at the range or something. If they demand open chambers, you can use that and lock it open. When it stays open without the mag in, which is a nice little feature. Something else you may have noticed as I put that mag in there is the mag well. It's got a polymer mag well. You don't have your typical rock and lock AK mag system here. All you do is insert and push up, and it's in. For speed, I think it's hard to beat. This thing's going to be awesome for mag changes. As far as sights go, we've got RPK sights like every other VEPR on the planet. Comes with their standard RPK handguards that they use. I kind of like these. So sights, you got a standard AK front sight, height adjustable and windage adjustable. You've got sling loops on both sides, which is kind of nice. Gas tube, little different than AKs. You have a carrier and a piston rod just like you do on an AK, but instead of the head on the rod, you have a separate puck that moves in there, and the rod works that puck, so kind of interesting. And then they come with a muzzle nut, but I wanted the Mallet. This is a Mallet GK2, and everything I read about it says it's phenomenal. Yes, it's huge. Look at the size of this thing, guys. 3 huge ports on top, fish gills on the side, ports on the right side, but nothing on the left side. So we'll see how that works too. Lock nut to keep it in place. And that's about it. I threw a Romy sling on it for right now. And we're going to take this sucker out and see how she works. We did do a little slicking, let's say, to this gun. So I reprofiled the hammer on this, brought it way down, got rid of the humps. I did a flat profile, kind of like a com block profile, brought it way, way, way down. It'll still reset the disconnector and all. Polished it up. Polished up some spots on the carrier itself, the underneath of the carrier, the hammer. Polished up the trigger too because this thing was so bad. Other than that, that's about it. It's fairly slick. What we're gonna do is I picked up a couple hundred rounds of the Federal bulk pack that I talked about. But to kind of run this thing in, I picked up some slugs. We're going to run some 1 ounce slugs through it. We're going to run some buckshot through it. We're going to run I got some Federal game loads that are 3 1/4 dram. I picked up some Winchester just because everybody said they won't run it. It's terrible. The hulls are softer, this and that. So I picked some up just to see. And so we're going to kind of work our way down and hopefully it runs it all. If for some reason it starts choking, well, then we'll go back to the drawing board and get this thing running. But the whole mission here is to get this thing to run those 3 dram loads. So without further ado, let's take this out and see what we can do. What we're going to try out today first, guys, is these Winchester Super X 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce slugs. They're rated at 1600 feet per second, and we'll see how they do. I'm sure these will run fine, hopefully. Okay, guys, so we got our slugs loaded up here in our C-Spec mags, and let's see how they run. Well, she ran all of them and the bolt hold open stayed open, even when you take the mag out. So that's some good news. Let's try the next one. Next one we're going to try here are these Federal game loads, 2 3/4 inch, 1 ounce a shot, 7.5, and they're 3 1/4 dram and rated at 1290 feet per second. So we'll see how these run. Well, a couple failures to feed there, or failures to eject, I should say. Let's give it another run with those and see how it comes out. So figured we'd try the factory 5-round mag. seemed to go okay. Kind of weak on the ejection, but we'll keep trying. Well, we've got some Winchester Super Target I bought here. These are probably weaker, and reports are that some of the Winchester, or all of it, just doesn't feed right, namely the Universal, but this is their Super X Target. It's rated at 3 grams. Let's see how this runs. As expected, garbage. We're going to try some of those Winchester in the factory mag. Huh. The ones that wouldn't cycle at all in the leather mag cycle perfectly in here. Well, this is what a lot of people recommend, this Federal bulk pack field and target, 12 gauge, 3 gram, ounce and an eighth, 7.5 shot, feet per second, 1200. So we'll see. It's about 20 bucks for 100 of these. Hopefully they run. We'll see. Same Federal's factory mag. Well guys, we've put over 200 rounds through this gun, most out of these, and we're still running those Federal 3 gram, 7.5 a shot. And let me show you what's still going on after 200 rounds. By the way, we lubed it up a bit too. Oh, this is getting tiring. So that's the C-Spec mag. Here's the factory mag, same rounds. Well guys, that trip wasn't the success I was hoping it would be, but hey, we learned something, right? Even though we did a little prior slicking, It just wasn't enough to get the gun to where I wanted it. You saw with the slugs that it ran just fine. And frankly, guys, that's what these guns are made to run. They're made, you know, they're built as a tactical weapon. They were never intended to run, you know, light target loads like we want them to run here in the US for different stuff we're doing with them. But they ran the slugs just fine. I didn't put the footage in with the buckshot. I just didn't want to make it crazy long. It's going to be long as it is anyways. Ran the buckshot just fine. From there we went to the 3 1/4 and 3 1/4 dram, and that it ran okay. I think the first mag had 3 failures to eject, second one had 2 failures to eject. Funny thing was that the factory 5-rounder functioned flawlessly. From there, I think I wanted to test that Winchester just to get it out of the way, because they say the hulls are thinner and they squish more, and most guys just can't get those to run. We're not talking double A's here. We're talking that, you know, Universal or the Speed Target or whatever other junk they have at Walmart. Anyways, we ran that in the 10-rounder, and it was essentially a single shot gun. Failure to eject on every round. But what surprised the heck out of me is it ran out of this. That tells me the gun's running, right? But in all fairness to these mags, I didn't have a 10-round mallet mag there. And I think what's happening with these, they're Parkerized, right? They're kind of rough. The followers are smooth, but just it's inherent in that Parkerization that they're a little rough. Not to mention, you've got a longer and heavier spring to give it that oomph. And when that thing's loaded with 10 rounds in it, you've got more upward pressure. So maybe that had something to do with it. Anyhow, we went from the Winchester down to our target load then was, or our target load, which was the 3-dram Federal. And I ran 200 rounds of that, and I put in, I don't know how many mags of it in the video, but it was all pretty much the same, some better, some worse. And I ran it in the 5-round too, and every single time that 5-rounder ran like clockwork. And a lot of people would say, well, hey, you did it, you got it there, you know what you did worked out, you're done. But no, the point is I want to run these mags. And I don't want to, I mean, I guess if I had to, I'd pay the, whatever the going rate is, $125 or $140 for those mallet mags, but that's crazy. These are, I think, 60 bucks a piece, which isn't cheap, but you're getting, you know, a steel mag for it too. So let me show you first what we had done before we went out there. Before we went out there, of course, we put the brake on. And by the way, I have footage of with and without the brake, and frankly, it shot better with the brake, which I kind of figured it would probably give it a little back pressure. On the Carrier, really all we did was smooth up the bottom that comes into contact with the hammer. So we smoothed that up. I also noticed I love to grip on the mag. You know, if I'm shooting in competition, of course, I'm gripping further out. But if I put extra pressure on that, it would bind this, and it was binding right on these side rails. So I polished those two, polished in between a little bit, and brought the side up a little here. I thought maybe if it was dragging on the side cover. Excuse me, guys, I'm getting sick. Anyhow, just did our usual polish job on the Carrier itself. The bolt we left alone. There's just now starting to show some wear marks, and there might be some spots that I touch up a hair. But remember, guys, you want to stay away from the locking lugs on this thing, and also the other lug on it too. You don't want to mess with those. Could I polish up the stem and a few other things? Maybe. And I see some wear marks here that maybe I could polish in a little bit and smooth it up. Sure, but I don't think that's your major sticking point. As far as the hammer goes, let me see if I can show you here. We just polished the face. We did a major reprofiling on it. It basically had the shape of a G2, a Tapco G2, where it's got the two little humps. We got rid of those completely. And I've done these before, and basically what I did, God, I wish I could, without taking it all apart, I really flattened that thing out. I mean, I brought it down. And that's basically all we did before we brought it out there. So, got back, looked at some of the video, and yeah, I could do a little more slick it up. I could do the rails and whatnot, which I'm gonna do either way. But you know what? I wanted this gun 100% reliable with that stuff. So here's what we did. We came up with some solutions. Number one, your recoil assembly. Now this is already changed over. We went to a JTE guide rod system. Guide rod and the centerpiece here too. Your stock system, what that looks like, it's two pieces. And this part here with the little notch in it here, that's what's locked into your holder in the back. It's pinned in. And your springs are captured. They don't come off on the stock unit. So I could have just replaced the spring, but what happens with this type of guide rod is if it's off in any way, which we know AKs are never off, right? As it slides, it can bind. Look at that, just a little bend and it ain't moving, you know? So if it's off in the least bit, it can bind. And the tolerances aren't that great, you know? So what we did was we got this GTE guide rod. You knock the pin out, put the new one in, drive the pin back in, okay? Then we kept the stock rear spring, and it just goes over it like that. But then to replace the second part of that guide rod, we went to this, this is by JTE2, this Delrin nylon whatever guide rod. So when it's in the gun, that's sitting like that, and it's much smoother, and it can't bind no matter what you do. And then the Carolina Shooter Systems light spring in front. So that was the first, and you can still use your dust cover too. It's a little harder to put in. You have to kind of guide it till it gets in there, but other than that, you know, field stripping it and all, it's all the same. Next thing we did, I told you we had a puck instead of a piston. So here's your carrier, your rod, and it looks like the remnants of a piston here, but all there is this push rod. There's a hook in it, and I'll tell you what that's for in a second. Here is the standard puck, okay? And it's essentially a piston, right? So that's sliding back and forth. The rod comes in, recoil, pushes the rod back, and that's that. So we went to, this is a Korodish out of Russia. It's titanium. And the biggest difference you'll see, here's the stock one. Here's the Korodish. It's about half the length, okay? So what that does is it gives it that much more travel that much more push to get that rod going. Plus it's a lot lighter and it's titanium. This is regular old steel. I told you about the hook on the carrier. What that hook is for is when that piston's in there and you got all kinds of carbon buildup and whatnot, these things can get stuck in there pretty good. So that hook, after you field strip it, you take this and it hooks in there and you can pull it out of the gas block. That's the one thing I don't like about this Corrodish. There is a slight cutout in there to maybe get something in there, but you can't, it's hard to get anything in there. So here's a little tip for you if you use those. This is out of a blind bearing puller set. And what you can do is put that up in there, crank this in, it shoves these out, grabs it, and you can pull it out of there. And that's only when carbon's built up in there. And frankly, when you're field stripping and cleaning them, guys, I wouldn't clean the carbon off that puck until you absolutely had to, or it was getting really bad. They run better when they're more carboned up. I mean, obviously there's a top end to that, but they run better when they're carboned up. They seal better, okay? So you don't want to clean those things perfectly every time. I only clean these to show you for the video. Otherwise, I'd probably leave them a little crudded up. Actually, the gas block right now, if I put them in there, they stick when they get all the way forward because there's some carbon buildup in there, but I'm going to leave it alone for right now. And the third thing I was going to tell you was the spring we replaced, the performance spring. Seems to me too, looking at the front spring and the back spring, that both are the same spring from the factory. Maybe somebody can confirm that for me. I'm not sure on that one. We ordered those parts, and just for giggles, because 10 rounders are fun, but 12 rounders are more fun. Plus, I kind of wanted to confirm these SGM tactical mags. I got a 12 rounder. And I had no high expectations of these things running any good. But it kind of intrigued me because my thought was that the Parkerization was maybe, because we're talking, you know, stacking tolerances kind of here, you know, with these things. Every little bit of friction adds up. And those mags are going to run in, and I'll tell you what happened here in a minute. But anyhow, I got this, and you'll see in the video about this thing. Frankly, I don't know what everybody's talking about. These things run magnificently, you'll see. And 12 rounds just seems so much better than 10. That extra 2 rounds is just bam, 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 bam. It's nice, and it'll maybe save me a mag change here and there. So this was kind of neat. Anyways, those were the changes we made. And then we headed back out to the range this morning, and I'll show you what happened. Well, guys, we made those changes we talked about, and we're going to see how those same Federals run here. That seems to have taken care of it. We've got the SGM 12 rounder now. Bulk. Alright, we're going to run them all here with the Federal bulk. So guys, what'd you think of that? Pretty slick, huh? Yeah, that thing was working pretty smooth. I gotta say, these GM mags are pretty cool. That 12 rounder looks awesome. There is a 12 rounder coming out from CSS, so definitely gonna be getting some of those. We ran all total 200 rounds of the Federal Bulk Pack today, and 25 rounds of that Game Federal, which is a quarter dram heavier. It ran it all. What you didn't see on there was 2 failures to eject out of 225 rounds. Both of those rounds happened on one of the C-specs, and it's this one. For whatever, this is just my thoughts, because this one had been giving me more problems the first day out. I just happened to be using one more than the other, and I started to I ran the other one, and then they ran a little better, and I started looking at this one, and the back feed lip, I said I'd send Mike at CSS a picture of this, so maybe he can see this video. Here's 2, well, that's one I haven't fitted yet. Here's one on, both of these I fitted. So you can, Jesus, I got too much stuff here. You can see the feed lips here, and here. Okay, you see how these are straight out? And if you can see in the back here, there's just a little gap between the back of the mag and the feed lip, just a tiny gap. I don't know if you can see it. Anyhow, when you look at this one, when you look at this one, the right ear is bent out a little bit. If you can see that. And it's pushed down. I'll show them side by side. The one that's pushed down is this one. Can you see the difference? I don't know if it's going to show up on camera or not, but it's pushed down a little, and when I show them side by side, this is the one that's pushed down a little. And when I show them side by side here, you'll see how the one kind of goes out a little bit. Anyhow, 2 failures to eject on this mag only. So maybe that's an issue there. I mean, Mike said it might just be something they missed, no big deal. But super nice guy to talk to. If you got any questions, feel free to give him a call. He's awesome. And he builds some beautiful mags. But that's about it. Everything ran phenomenal. This spring carrier, everything can run any 2 3/4 inch shell. Anything you can throw at it, slugs, buckshot, whatever, and not beat the hell out of the gun. But I think we accomplished what we set out to do. Any questions, anything we can answer for you, help you along with your VEPR, comment below. And as always, please subscribe. We appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. From Rockford Ordnance, we're out.